1,200 kilometers. That is the exact distance from London to Rome. It is also the distance that a small blue and white propeller plane traveled through the most heavily defended airspace on the entire planet. As it hummed over the Republic of Tatarstan, Russian guards did not reach for their missiles. They did not scramble jets or sound the sirens. Instead, they reached for their phones to film it. To them, it looked like a harmless hobbyist who had simply lost his way in the vast Russian sky. They did not realize they were looking at a $90,000 flying tractor that was about to bankrupt a billion-dollar military program. But here is the detail that should truly terrify the Kremlin. Ukraine did not strike this factory while it was being built. They did not strike it when the halls were empty or the foundations were being poured. They watched. They waited for months until the assembly lines were perfectly calibrated, the warehouses were overflowing with finished components, and the factory finally hit full output. Today we analyze the anatomy of the Alabuga strike. This was a masterclass in asymmetrical warfare, and the day the Russian concept of the deep rear officially died. By late 2023, Russia had a critical dependency problem that was threatening their entire offensive strategy. They were burning through Iranian-made Shahed drones faster than Tehran could deliver them across the Caspian Sea. Their solution was the Alabuga Special Economic Zone. Russia invested over $1.3 billion to turn this massive industrial site into what can only be described as a drone city. The goal was staggering: 6,000 Duran-2 drones per year. But this was not just about basic assembly. It was about achieving strategic autonomy. According to leaked Alabuga documents, the factory moved through 3 distinct phases. Phase 1 involved simply assembling Iranian kits. Phase 2 shifted toward manufacturing the airframes on site. Phase 3 was the ultimate goal: full-cycle production, including domestic engines and advanced navigation systems. By April 2024, Alabuga had finally reached this critical Phase 3. They had successfully smuggled in high-end 5-axis CNC machines from the West via third-party shell companies and complex logistics chains. They had stockpiled thousands of volatile lithium batteries and expensive carbon fiber shells. The factory was hot, running at its absolute peak capacity, with a workforce that had been trained for months. Ukraine's intelligence services sat back and watched the satellite feeds with patient precision. They waited until the factory was pregnant with inventory. Because in the world of economic attrition, you do not just destroy a building, you destroy the momentum of an entire industry. How do you strike a target 1,200 kilometers away without using a Western missile that triggers a massive geopolitical crisis? You build a ghost plane. The weapon of choice was the Aeropract A-22 Foxbat. It is a Ukrainian-made ultralight aircraft that looks more like a toy than a weapon of war. In its civilian life, it is used for basic flight training and recreational soaring. But Ukrainian engineers stripped it to the bone. They removed the seats, the flight stick, and the fuel gauges. In their place, they installed a massive high-explosive payload of up to 300 kilograms, which is comparable to a high-end cruise missile costing millions. They added an autonomous brain consisting of a digital flight control system that does not need a human pilot. Most importantly, they equipped it with GPS-denied navigation. This is a system that uses terrain matching. Even if Russia jams every GPS signal in the region, the drone looks at the ground, compares the imagery to a digital map, and knows exactly where it is. The A-22 is made of metal, plastic, and fabric. To a high-tech S-400 radar designed to hunt Mach 2 fighter jets, the A-22 looks like a large, slow-moving bird. By flying at an altitude of just 30 meters, it hid in the radar shadows of the Russian hills and forests. For 6 hours, it navigated through the heart of Russia, unchallenged and invisible to the billion-dollar eyes of the Russian military. When the A-22 finally banked and dived into the Alabuga complex, the explosion was not just a physical shockwave that shattered windows. It was a massive economic catastrophe. Why wait for full output? If you strike a construction site, your enemy loses only bricks and mortar. If you strike a factory at full output, your enemy loses time, technology, and irreplaceable components. The explosion tore through the infrastructure supporting the workforce and the specialized machinery. The fire did not just burn the building, it melted the precision-calibrated CNC machines that Russia cannot easily replace due to international sanctions. Every day that the line is silent, Russia loses the capacity to launch 20 drones. Over a single month, that is 600 strikes that will never happen. But the physical damage was only the beginning of the disaster. The real moment of realization was the psychological collapse of the Russian defense strategy. As the smoke cleared, the Kremlin realized they were trapped in the defense paradox. Russia is the largest country on Earth, and it is physically impossible to cover every square kilometer with air defense. Until this moment, Russia kept its best systems, the Pantsir and S-400s, near the front lines in Ukraine or circling Putin's palaces in Moscow. Now, they have a choice they cannot win. They can protect the front and keep the radars in Ukraine, which means every oil refinery, tank plant, and drone factory in the Russian heartland is a sitting duck for a $90,000 flying tractor. Or they can protect the heartland and pull the radars back 1,200 kilometers to guard the factories. If they do that, the Russian front line becomes a shooting gallery for Ukrainian jets and HIMARS. Ukraine did not just hit a factory. They forced Russia to spread its shield so thin that it is starting to crack under the pressure. They turned Russian geography, once their greatest defense against Napoleon and Hitler, into their greatest vulnerability. We are witnessing the end of the deep rear. For a century, Russian military doctrine relied on the fact that they could move their factories behind the Ural Mountains and be safe from any conventional threat. Distance is no longer a shield, it is just a delay. Look at the cold economics of this engagement. A single S-400 interceptor missile costs roughly $2 million. The A-22 conversion costs less than $90,000. This is the scalability of attrition. Even if Russia shoots down 9 out of 10 drones, the one that gets through causes enough industrial damage to pay for the entire drone fleet 100 times over. Ukraine has turned the war into a math problem that Russia simply cannot solve. By waiting for the factory to reach its peak, they ensured that every dollar spent by the Kremlin was a dollar wasted. The Alabuga factory is still there, and they are trying to rebuild. But the drone city is no longer the invincible fortress Russia promised. The workers in Tatarstan now look at every small plane in the distance with dread. The engineers from abroad are reconsidering their contracts. The momentum has been broken. Ukraine proved that in a world of digital transparency and cheap long-range tech, there is nowhere to hide. They waited for the perfect moment. They let the hive get full, and then they sent a toy to burn it down. This shift in warfare represents a fundamental change in how global powers must view their industrial security. The era of the massive centralized manufacturing hub is becoming a liability in the age of long-range, low-cost precision strikes. As we look to the future, the question remains whether any nation can truly protect its vital infrastructure against such a persistent and inexpensive threat. The Alabuga strike was not just an attack. It was a signal that the rules of the game have changed forever. When distance dies, every factory is on the front line. Every assembly line is a target. And every slow-moving propeller in the sky could be the end of a billion-dollar dream. Write your tactical analysis in the comments. We'll see you in the next deep dive. Stay sharp.